empowering you, the grassroots activist. Here is Dr. Chaps.
Welcome back, and thank you for watching PIJN News. I'm Dr. Chaps. Since 1954, the churches have been under an implied threat from the government should the church be forced to pay taxes. Well, taxing the churches would appear on its face to violate the First Amendment of the Constitution. But in 1954, then Texas Senator Lyndon Baines Johnson passed what he called the Johnson Amendment to tax some churches if those churches got involved in politics by removing their tax-exempt status. And here's a quote from then Senator Johnson, who later became president. He said, "This amendment that I'm proposing seeks to extend the provisions of Section 501, in other words, 501c3, the tax-exempt section, of the House bill denying tax-exempt status, not only to those people who influence legislation, but also to those who intervene in any political campaign on behalf of any candidate for public office." Well, that caused a debate about whether pastors are allowed to endorse political candidates from office from the pulpit. And should a pastor have the freedom of speech to stand in the pulpit and say not only what his religious beliefs are, but who he wants to endorse as a candidate for public office? We think that right is protected under the First Amendment of the Constitution, which says, "Congress shall make no law respecting the establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof or abridging the freedom of speech."
The problem with this argument is that nothing prevents an individual from speaking freely. The point of the idea of taxing a politically active church is to keep the church and state separate. If an individual wants to make a political statement independent of the church, then it's not a problem. Further, what the First Amendment says, quote, "Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or the right of people peaceably to assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances." Close quote. There is nothing whatsoever in the First Amendment referencing a tax-exempt status for a religious institution. So what does the First Amendment mean? According to Cornell Law School, quote, "Two clauses in the First Amendment guarantee freedom of religion. The Establishment Clause prohibits the government from passing legislation to establish an official religion or preferring one religion over another. It enforces the separation of church and state. Some governmental activity related to religion has been declared constitutional by the Supreme Court. For example, providing bus transportation for parochial school students and the enforcement of blue laws is not prohibited. The Free Exercise Clause prohibits the government in most instances from interfering with a person's practice of their religion." What are the common threads between the aforementioned entities and institutions referenced in the First Amendment? The people and the press are involved in government and express their politically motivated views, and both are taxpayers. Why should we treat a politically active church any differently? What I find hypocritical about this is that any time a church wants to be actively involved in politics, separation of church and state don't seem to matter. However, when they have to pay taxes for doing so, or when a state institution is even perceived to want to interfere in the matters of the church, all of a sudden it becomes important to them. You can't have it both ways. Why is there a protected status for churches in the first place? It is likely because a church is expected to act in a similar manner as a charity and also avoid being active in politics as an institution. I understand some churches are about charity and focus strictly in the realm of religion. I personally have no problem with these institutions being tax-free as long as they maintain that standard of conduct. However, those churches that are more like a profit-driven venture and or want to place themselves in the center of policy or political discussion should have to pay up. just like the individuals in your congregation do. Thanks for watching.